Hey, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I am your host, Jay, just Jay, your resident culture warrior and your resident troublemaker. I hope all you beautiful badasses are doing well. All right, so let's get right into it. We have another case of somebody putting out an article again, and they're drawing conclusions on the Lord of the Rings and what things mean within the story. And clearly, their perspective is diluted by the Rings of Power show, and it shows how they're completely sort of missing the mark on exactly what's really going on. So let's take a look here. This is coming to us from Game Rant, and this is The Lord of the Rings, the real meaning behind Galadriel's most famous line. So it says, was the test pass or fail? Or do these words mean something else entirely? The Rings of Power has shown a very different side of Galadriel than that previously known in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogies. Her younger self was portrayed as a much more headstrong, proactive character whose tragedies and losses have led to her feeling angry at the world and pledging that she will eradicate Sauron from it. The symbolism of Finrod's dagger, which she always carries with her, is a symbol of her burning desire to right the wrong of the terrible wars she has seen. But it is this same burning actually leads her to make the ultimate mistake of her life, keeping Sauron alive when she first meets him, unaware of who this stranger from the Southlands is, and why he is in the Sundering Seas to begin with. Already within season 1 of the show, she has learned some tough lessons, which will shape her into the wiser, more reserved Lady of Lorien known in the movie adaptations. But her most renowned scene, in which she turns into, quote, drowned Galadriel and takes on the fearsome green glow of an evil tyrant, shows that she still has this anger and this potential for great darkness inside her, and that although she has learned to subdue it over the many long years that pass between the Rings of Power and the Lord of the Rings, it is still something that could lead her down the wrong path if she let it. And it did before. When she takes Frodo to the glade and lets him glimpse into the future that awaits if the One Ring is not destroyed, she takes a huge risk, because knowing the possible outcomes of the story will inevitably change the path that one chooses to take to avoid them, as can be seen by Miriel's vision of the fall of Numenor in the Palantir, showing the flood that changed the fate of Middle-earth across the ages. In impressing the seriousness of the task at hand upon Frodo, she prompts him to make a choice: to abandon all hope now, at which point the quest will fail, or to bear the responsibility of seeing it all the way through, even if it means doing so alone. Understandably, Frodo's first reaction is fear. When Bilbo left the ring to him over 17 years ago in the Shire, the young hobbit never could have imagined that it would come with so much turmoil and heartache. He has just come from the forest in Lothlorien, having heard the beautiful words the elves sing in their lament to Gandalf, who has just fallen from the bridge of Khazad-dûm in battle with the Balrog. This grief is fresh on the hobbit's, I'm assuming she meant mind, fresh on the hobbit's kind. And then Galadriel shows him that there is even more sorrow and destruction on the path ahead. In fact, the very next thing that will happen is that Boromir will try to take the ring, and he may not have died if Gandalf had been there. But the breaking of the fellowship was always going to happen at some point due to the allure of the ring. Knowing that, who could blame Frodo for offering up his curse and this burden to the Lady of Lorien, who he sees as a much stronger, wiser, far more capable person of being its keeper? Okay. He previously, in English, I'm going to try that. He previously offered the ring up to Gandalf also for exactly the same reasons, because he doubts himself to be the right person for the job. But Galadriel holds too much power, just as the Grey Wizard does, and Gandalf could have made an even worse Dark Lord than Sauron. That is why, when given the chance to take the ring, Galadriel goes into her scary evil queen mode, both as a reminder to Frodo of what will happen if he trusts the ring to the wrong person, but also as a reminder to herself of the horror that she is capable of. Now remember that. As she snaps back out of it, she says probably her most famous words of the entire trilogy, quote, "I passed the test. I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel," unquote. The most obvious interpretation of that is to take the test as a literal thing, which she passed as opposed to failing it by accepting the ring and giving in to her deepest, darkest desires. Gotta love that picture. But actually, those iconic lines have an alternate meaning, which is to say that she is finally letting go of the anger and the responsibility that she bore for all those years and is allowing it to be someone else's now, someone more capable of doing what she could not and defeating the evil at hand. Therefore, the line's more accurate meaning would be, "I passed the test to Frodo." Thus, she can finally accept the diminishing of the elves, trust the idea that Frodo can and will destroy the ring and rid Middle Earth of Sauron's menace, and find enough harmony to allow her to retire to the Grey Havens. She didn't go back to Valinor when she had the chance in Rings of Power because she still carried the promise of avenging Finrod and defeating Sauron, weighing so heavily upon her. But now that she passes this test on to Frodo, she can finally return to her home in peace. Okay, so in essence, what author Alice Rose Dodds is saying here is that, what Galadriel meant by that is, I passed the test because I didn't accept the ring, and because I've been feeling all this guilt and anger and all this stuff because I've spent thousands of years just totally being a fucking asshole to everybody I've met. So now I'm going to pass this on to Frodo because, this little guy who I've just met and stuff like that, he's going to be able to fix all these problems, and I'm going to be able to go back home. Completely missing everything. I'm going to try this, so I hope this works, but I'm going to try playing that particular scene video, and hopefully this doesn't get flagged, but you never know, so let's give it a shot here.
If you ask it of me, I will give you the One Ring. You offer it to me freely.
This is our big moment.
I do not deny that my heart has greatly desired this. In place of a dark lord, you would have a queen! Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn! Treacherous as the sea! Stronger than the foundations of the earth! All shall love me and despair! I pass the test. I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel. I cannot do this alone. You are a ring bearer, Frodo. To bear a ring of power is to be alone.
That's right, buddy.
This is Nennu, the ring of adamant, and I am its keeper.
All right, so there's the scene. Okay, a couple of things where Miss Dodds gets it wrong. Tolkien wrote additional material. Galadriel's story is one of the things that he kept tinkering with right up until the end. Tolkien fans know this. There is he set a bunch of his poems and writings to music, and it was called The Road Goes Ever On. I believe it came out in 1966. And he actually talks about what was going on with Galadriel. Okay, here's Galadriel's story, and this will explain why Miss Dodds gets it wrong. Galadriel always wanted, when we first meet her in the Silmarillion, she was one of the leaders of the Noldor that wanted to go to Middle Earth, because she wanted to rule a kingdom. Now, that sounds a lot more sketchy than it was. In her mind, she wanted to experience Middle Earth and start a kingdom there, of elves. Okay, so when Feanor and his folks committed the kinslaying and were sort of cursed by the Valar. She wasn't with them. She wasn't one of the elves that went with Feanor and his group. She initially was, because she just knew that they're going to Middle Earth. But her and I think it's Fingolfin, they sort of get delayed and show up later after the kinslaying is already in progress. Although later on he did revise that a little bit. But so she wasn't directly involved in the kinslaying, but when the Noldor left, they were banned. Effectively, they were banned. Any of the Noldor that were leaving were effectively banned from returning to by the Valar. It was the ban of the Valar. So they were effectively banned from returning back to the Grey Havens, right? So because Galadriel went anyway, even though she didn't directly go with Feanor and his crew, she ends up going regardless. She is covered under the ban. Okay, in other words, she's not allowed to return to Valinor. Okay, and it's sort of implied that she has a little bit of, she's kind of scornful of this ban. She's just kind of like, well, I had no intention on coming back anyway, so screw yourself and your ban. So fast forward to the War of Wrath, when Melkor finally gets defeated. Okay, at the end of the First Age, the ban is effectively lifted on the Noldor, for their assistance in fighting Morgoth. The Valar lift the ban on the Noldor, so that Noldor that wanted to return could return. Um, it's it's flat out stated that Galadriel's like, nah, I'm not coming back. Keep your ban. I don't care about it. And because of this pridefulness of hers, she's effectively still banned. Like she's one of the leaders. I guess they were held to a higher standard. So she's one of the leaders of the Noldor. I think she's the only one that's still alive at the end of the wars, at the end of the First Age. So she is effectively still banned. Okay, she cannot go back to Valinor. She's effectively still banned. So what ultimately happens is that, as you saw, Frodo offers her the ring. She basically has everything that she wants. Okay, like this is the penultimate goal of hers. Like she can have absolute power. Okay, in Middle Earth, and she refuses it because she sees it for what it is. Okay, she sees it, and that's what her whole speech is about. Is that much like how Gandalf sort of tried to tell Frodo, is that, listen, it doesn't matter how good you are or what good you'd want to do with it. The ring is so evil, it would corrupt it regardless, okay? That you could want to use it for good, but that good would be corrupted. Kind of similar in that, Feanor and the oath of Feanor and stuff like that came from a good place, i.e., they wanted to return the Silmarils to the rightful owner. But they sort of focus in so much on it that they wound up being the instrument of their own doom, because they were like, well, we're going to get the Silmarils, and regardless of who has them, if it's not us, we will effectively kill people, our fellow elves included, to get them back. So, in other words, you start from a good, like the whole thing, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You start it from a good place, from a valid place of, hey, we want to get the Silmarils back, but then it morphs into, we will kill anybody, even our brethren, if they have the Silmarils, because we're the only ones that can have them. Okay, so in essence, Galadriel has this opportunity. She always wanted to start a kingdom within Middle Earth. That was her motivation. She wanted to go to Middle Earth and start a kingdom. Not because she was some power hungry uber bitch, but just because that's what she wanted to do. So here's, now she gets presented with the ring, and she effectively could take Sauron's place, being like the ultimate evil dictator of Middle Earth. And she refuses. And it's all the more important that she refuses because she is still at this time effectively banned from returning to Valinor. Okay? And in the Lord of the Rings, the next day when the Fellowship is leaving, she is singing songs about her being banned from Valinor. And ultimately, Tolkien says in "And the Road Goes Ever On," he says that she is not pardoned until after Sauron is defeated. She is pardoned because of her role in helping to defeat Sauron. She's effectively pardoned. Now, when she says, "I've passed the test, I will diminish and go into the West and be Galadriel," there's a couple of ways. I've seen people interpret that several different ways. Ultimately, the general idea of it is, the general gist of it is she recognizes that ultimately power was not what was important. She's going to diminish because she's no longer in need of having power. Okay, she can. It's sort of twofold. I'm going to diminish in that I'm no longer need to be this ruler type person, as well as I can effectively now grow old like the rest of the elves and diminish and go into the West. And just be Galadriel again, not be the Lady of Lorien, so on and so forth. So that's what it means. It has nothing to do with her as a younger Morfydd Clark Galadriel, warrior princess, and I can finally lay down my anger and hatred and vengeance and pass that shit off to Frodo, and so it has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with it. You're trying to make connections between the Rings of Power show and Peter Jackson's adaptations, as well as the books, that cannot be made. They are not there. Tolkien explicitly explains what Galadriel is referencing. He explains about the pardon, that she eventually receives after the defeat of Sauron, why she could not return to Valinor prior to that. So even in the show, when you see her being sent on a ship by Gil-galad to go back to Valinor, and then she jumps overboard, no, she couldn't have gone. Okay, she was effectively still banned at that point from returning to Valinor. So, Game Rant, you got your facts wrong again. Sorry to have to call you out once again, but you got your facts wrong. So it has nothing to do with her, days as warrior princess Galadriel and wanting to pass the torch on to Frodo to finish the job. And so it has nothing to do with that. It's all about, she originally left Valinor wanting to start her own kingdom in Middle-earth. She did that with Lothlorien, and she was now presented with the power to be the ultimate ruler in Middle-earth. And she realized that that's not her. She realized that the ring would corrupt her no matter how much good she wanted to do, and that it wouldn't be her. And so that's why she recoils from it, doesn't accept the ring, and she's like, I passed the test. I can go home now. And ultimately she gets pardoned because of that. That's what that was about. Has nothing to do with passing the torch to Frodo. Has nothing to do with her days as a Morfydd Clark warrior princess. Anyway, I just thought I would share that with you. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. You guys have some great comments. I'm actually going to do a video where I'm just going to be like reading some of your comments, because I'm like, some of you guys and gals have made some really awesome posts in the comment section over the past couple of days, and I'm really digging it. So I actually may make it even a regular thing. But look for that video. That'll be coming shortly. Let me know what you think of this in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts and your takes. If you like the video, remember to hit the like button. If you feel like sharing it, please feel free to do so. If you have not subscribed already, we're real close to 500, and then I want to shoot for 1,000. Because I'm digging this. I'm liking how, like, you know, conversations are getting more involved, and, you know, I'm seeing like 30 or 40 comments about people giving their take and perspective on things, and I think that's totally cool, and that's what fandom should be about. Anyway, so if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, and if you have subscribed, you are awesome, and I will put out more content shortly. Anyway, I will talk to you beautiful badasses soon. Until then, peace.